Are you delusional or driven? That's really I'm spitting fire with that. But for real. Are you delusional or driven? I know you probably clicked on this video like, what are you trying to say? Hear me out. I'm not trying to be mean or rude to anyone that has been posting about the delulu syndrome and how it helps stay consistent or, never give up on your dreams. For real, never give up on your dreams. I'm here for that. This is my perspective on the subject, analyzing the difference between being driven or a dreamer and being delusional. And I believe it's only right to start with the definition of delusion. Delusion refers to a persistent belief or perception that contradicts reality and often resistant to reason or evidence at all. It involves a distortion of thought processes leading to the individual embracing false beliefs, despite supporting evidence to go against what they're thinking. Delusions can manifest in various forms, such as paranoid delusion, where one believes others are plotting against them, and other type of delusions where, like, for example, an exaggerated sense of one's importance. So in this definition of delusion, we see that there are clearly characteristics that can be used to our advantage, whether it is as like a creator trying to move up or trying to move up in a corporate ladder. It can pertain to anyone that's ambitious and trying to, get somewhere else that they're not their current situation. At the same time, there are a couple of red flags. For example, like towards the end where it was like the exaggerated sense of importance is a big one for me. I feel like that ties in heavily with delusion in the creator space. So for me, as a content creator, I would love for my content to get more reach. Like more reach, it gets to more people, and you can eventually like grow and stuff like that. Like obviously if you're passionate about something you do, you want it to grow. I get that. But from my perspective, it has never been all about me. I've always wanted to use my platform to help and support others, as well as sharing my testimony to those that need it in the season. I think it goes back to like main character energy, or, I'm the main character. We are the main character of our stories, but I feel like there's different versions of that too, which like inflates your importance in everyone else's story. So to continue reading more about delusion, while delusions can serve as a coping mechanism, and source of motivation, they may also pose challenges, potentially impeding personal growth and hindering meaningful connections with reality. You can probably tell already, but a lot of this goes back to connecting with reality when we talk about dreamer versus delusional. Understanding and navigating the complexities of delusion is crucial for maintaining a healthy balance between imagination and reality. So the part that stuck out the most to me in that last part I just read is that 1, people use delusions to cope. Again, ouch. 2, being too delusional can cause a feel of dissociation and lost connection with reality. I have personal experience dealing with the first point about coping, and I won't get too much into it, but let me know if you want a dedicated video about that. I am on my healing journey, and I'm already learning a ton about myself. I've been on my healing journey like since the beginning of this year, and I asked for clarity and self-awareness, and I got it. That's kind of part of the reason why I'm starting to make these type of videos. This is actually my first time making a video like this. But yeah, let me know if you want a video for that, and I'll expand on it more. But when you really think about using it to cope when you should be doing something else, it's really like, ooh, ouch. With that being said, I would love for you to pause the video and tell me your opinion on this. I would love you guys will comment your opinion or edit and like update it throughout the video. That'll be great. I would love to hear, because I'm making this video because I want to start conversation. I just want to hear, different opinions and stuff like that, and hopefully put it into perspective for someone who may have also been wondering about this. So next chapter, being a dreamer versus being delusional. Dreamers acknowledge reality, but often reach for extraordinary. The distinction between delusional and being a dreamer lies in the relationship between your belief or aspiration and your objective reality. Being a dreamer typically involves having imaginative and ambitious goals, fueled by optimism and a desire of personal growth. I feel like this is where there are some similarities, because I do feel like delusion, you are fueled with optimism as well, but it's just a little more unhinged. So with dreamers, it's a positive mindset that can drive creativity and motivation, but it's grounded and more realistic. On the other hand, delusion entails holding persistent beliefs and perceptions that significantly deviate from reality and are resistant to evidence. Delusions often involve a disconnect from the real world and individuals may disregard facts or feedback that contradict their beliefs. I know you all have had conversations where you're talking to somebody and you'll have a valid point, not one based off opinion, but even ones just based off of fact, and they will literally never acknowledge that you have that point. I feel like that's what it feels like trying to give advice or like input to people with delusion. And like I'll say multiple times in this video, this is not talking about the people who are like, don't follow your dreams, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm not talking about those, because no, we're ignoring them because we're doing what we're going to do. Like, we're just saying in moderation and realistically is basically what I'm trying to get at. So unlike dreamers, those who are delusional may find it challenging to distinguish between their beliefs and the actuality of their circumstances, because realistically their beliefs are all that they have, like all that matter, kind of. I said ouch to the last sentence. Outside of content creation, this pertains to all aspects of life. While I've been on my healing journey, I identified multiple times in which I was delusional in hopes that things would change. Those people, situations, and trauma that I could not change, and needed to accept that to start my healing journey. Like, this is why I was like, I would do a separate like video if you guys want to know. But yeah, I've definitely realized in moments, especially with my mental health, I've been delusional to where like, oh no, everything's fine, and it's definitely not fine, and using that to cope. Whew, that is very, very toxic and bad for your mental health. But yeah, so ouch to that. In essence, dreamers maintain a healthy balance between imagination and reality. And I feel like that's where I want to be on the spectrum. I feel like I was a little close, way too close to the delusion when it came to certain things. Not everything. As far as like creating and being ambitious, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next chapter. Dangers of delusion. The danger associated with delusional individuals often stems from their impaired ability to perceive reality. I know I keep saying this over and over again. I'm so sorry. I'm getting used to script writing, okay? Here are 5 dangers of delusion. 1, impaired decision making, which when you think about what we discussed prior to now, delusional beliefs can lead to poor decision making because you're not looking at it from a well-rounded perspective, because you're only taking in what you have in your mind and not what's going on around you. So impaired decision making, you're not like, typically there's some bad decisions in there. Risk to self or others. Depending on the nature of the delusions, individuals might engage in risky behaviors that pose harm to themselves or others. As well as, I'm going to tie this into the next point, legal and social consequences. I feel like those tie in together because people who are super delusional don't really respect boundaries of other people and believe whatever is in their head is acceptable, because again, we talk about impaired decision making and not taking in feedback and not taking in like those other things. It's very, very dangerous when you pertain it to things outside of like content creation and the internet. So I was like, we need to talk about these. Are we delusional? If we are, we might need to seek just a little bit of help. Like, speaking to myself. The next one is strained relationships. Delusions obviously constrain relationships because if you're not taking any feedback or you're spiraling or whatever it may be and you're so out of touch from reality, I feel like it becomes me against the world real quick, and not in the, I don't know, it comes me against the world. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but hopefully y'all know what I'm trying to say. And yeah, it can cause isolation from friends and family. Resistance to help. Yikes. Delusional individuals may be resistant to seeking or accepting help, may perceive interventions or treatment as a threat to their current beliefs. Enough said there. So those are a couple dangers of delusion. Many of the points above spill over into the mental health and daily life in general. Specifically, a lot of those reminded me of how I feel when I'm having like a bad depression week. I guess the easiest one is resistance to help. Just like when you're depressed and you feel like literally no one can relate, and what you think in your head is what you think in your head, like life sucks and da-da-da. And it don't matter if you be like, life gets better. I'm like, no, I want to hear that. Not saying that it's like, it's not always intentional with depression, but I was just thinking about how some of these overlap with other things. So I always want to throw that disclaimer out there, like some of these factors overlap with other issues you may be experiencing. But that's literally the first thing I thought about was my depression. Like when I'm super depressed, I'm like, no. 5 ways to know you're being too delusional. And some of this overlaps with what I said about the dangers of delusion. So we'll get right into it. Disregarding contrary evidence. If you're consistently dismissing or ignoring facts or feedback or evidence that contradicts your belief or plans, it may be a sign that you're a little delusional, okay? Healthy perspectives consider a range of information. Like I said earlier, well-rounded perspectives. That's how you really get a good grasp of a situation. And again, it's not talking about the people that's hating or telling you can't grow or achieve your dreams and stuff like that. We're not talking about them. They deserve the pushback because, you know, don't rain on my parade. Unrealistic expectations. Setting goals and aspirations is commendable, but if your expectations are consistently far beyond what's achievable or reasonable, I feel like it might be a bit delusional and not in a good way. Like, I'm all for being ambitious and like shooting for the stars, but I think there's other factors that go into that, especially with concerning your mental health. So, for example, I've caught myself in the past doing super big, ambitious goals and not taking time to reflect on the wins because my goal, it felt like a drop in the, what they say, a drop in the bucket. I'm so bad at those. It feels like it's nothing. Like, let's say, for example, I think I wrote down an example. For example, posting a reel and expecting to wake up with 1 million followers. When you wake up and, that's kind of a reach. It happens for people. It definitely does. But when you wake up and you were like, man, this is going to be the one to be 1 million followers, and the video got like 5 views, I feel like that does something to your mental health because it's such a lofty, lofty, lofty goal versus being like, okay, I'm going to wake up to 300. I want to get 300 followers a week or whatever that may be. So I do think super unrealistic expectations, maybe delulu. I think that's what a lot of people are talking about on the internet when they talk about it. But I don't think it's a healthy thing for your mental health. I feel like there's a middle ground between like not doing anything and being delusional, which is being a dreamer, like just being ambitious. Another example could be not spending time to work on your passion and expecting huge results just because of who you are. Like, let's say you're a salesperson and you don't really, spend time working with your customers or working with the software, really understanding it, and you do a couple calls and they're not interested. Or you do a couple calls and you don't get the sales you want, but you haven't even done the work to set yourself up to be at that level. I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's another example of unrealistic expectations. Number 3, I kind of mentioned above, social isolation. Isolation from others, anybody who can offer criticism, you don't want to hear it. Any criticism. Or it don't even have to be criticism, it could just be a viewpoint. I see this a lot with arguments and like people who will like do something that we all know out of pocket and then we're like, that was kind of out of pocket, and they'll be like, no, I don't want to hear it. Even though like sometimes your friends, if you have good friends, they're going to try to hold you accountable. If you can't really take their attempts to try to hold you accountable, this might be a red flag for you. Again, it's all about approach and how people say things, but hopefully you guys are getting what I mean as far as that. So all feedback isn't bad feedback. To pick you back on this point, social isolation can stem from many things and not just delusion. For me, I have found myself in the past isolating because the people surrounding me did not align with where I was trying to go, and I needed to reevaluate my circle. So in some situations, social isolation is needed, but if it's because of a petty reason or you're just not wanting to hear the truth, then you might need to do some searching or like look into that more. The last 2 points are number 4, ignoring negative consequences and the lack of adaptability. Oof, I have a lot to say about this, but I'm gonna make it brief. If you consistently ignore or downplay the negative consequences of your actions or decisions, it could be a sign that you're too immersed in your delusional mindset, in my opinion. A healthy approach involves considering the positives and negatives, like the pros and cons. We always need to make a pros and cons list when we're making big decisions, right? And that kind of aligns with the lack of adaptability too, because it's just like when circumstances change in life, if you find yourself unwilling or unable to adapt your beliefs, even though things around you are changing and you need to like switch your approach, I feel like that's also a sign. It might indicate potentially delusional mindset. Well, from the creator space, I have seen this a lot more over the last couple years, and it will be like where with creators, I will see some risk their entire livelihood and then need assistance because they're too immersed in the moment or their mindset or their dedication to be a creator. Like, I know on YouTube we see a lot of videos where it's like, I quit my job, I did this, and I was struggling for like 2 months, and then I like, you know, got it together. But I feel like that's just a small sample of all the people who have tried that and it didn't work for them, and they didn't want to share the losses on the internet. I've been seeing this a lot on the internet. I think it started probably like 2020 or 2021 through now. It's just like increased each year. I believe that being so immersed that you will literally like risk your livelihood for multiple months and months and months, I believe that's delusion. If you find yourself risking getting kicked out or losing your possessions, but not making an attempt to like fix that or change that outside of just what you want to do, like let's say, well, I want to be a YouTuber, so I quit my job, I'm about to get evicted next week, but I'm not getting any income from my YouTube. I feel like a good moment would be like, okay, I'm going to get a part-time job or something to pay my bills. What I've been seeing is a lot of people will do that and then do group, what is it called? GoFundMes every month to help raise their rent. I feel like that's counterproductive because if you're going to do emergency relief to pay your rent, you should probably just get a job. I feel like that's delusion. Like, until you can actually sustain, you're not a full-time content creator. And, you know, some people, everybody has their different opinion on that, but that's delusion in my opinion. What y'all think down below? With me being a Christian, we do say in some situations you should take a leap of faith and have faith God will provide. I'm not saying that God will not provide, but I do think you need to be aligned with God when making decisions and not just out of your own general what you want. You need to like be aligned with God and have his guidance when making those decisions. And I see in a lot of videos, people do say they prayed about it and they got their sign or whatever it may be. I feel like there's a disconnect between that and others who just do it because it's what they want. Not necessarily the best decision in the moment. So I'm guilty of doing that before as well. But now that I reflect on a lot of things, I'm like, yeah, we gotta get that together. As we come to a conclusion of this video, I want to reflect on a couple things. What if I have identified that I am delusional, or in certain situations I am delusional? How can I use my delusion to my advantage? Delusion can make you highly motivated. Like I've mentioned multiple times, I think just grounding yourself, now that you're aware of some of these characteristics, maybe when you catch yourself doing it, you can ground yourself and be like, okay, let's be realistic. Let's not overdo it, okay? I think that's the biggest takeaway you could take from that if you are finding yourself in those moments where it's not good for your mental health or for your well-being. And I'm not saying to stop setting ambitious goals and to not have a positive outlook, because no, we're all about positivity and going for it, you know, but it's essential to regularly reassess and adjust your aspirations based on actual progress and feedback. So that's what I would say. Embracing a constructive form of optimism can help you navigate challenges with resilience, but avoiding like the detachment from reality is like the big takeaway. Like, you can't be that detached from reality. Ultimately, using delusion to your advantage involves harnessing the positive aspect while remaining grounded. And I'll end on this note, or with this question. Do you want to be delulu or do you want to be a dreamer? If you guys like this video and want to see more from me or more type of videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up because I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before, so I'm like, I can't wait to have a conversation with you guys. Thank you so much for watching this entire video. I know it's a little lengthy and I appreciate you so much. I will see you guys in the next video.